Hello world, my name is Lydia. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and today we're obviously going to be talking about the latest patch to come to Paladins, which is OB48. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a patch. I believe it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since we have had a new champion join the realm, and it's about time. And as I prophesized in the last patch review video, we have a new healer joining the game, and her name is Seris, Oracle of the Abyss. Now, taking a look at her abilities, her left mouse button is actually a damage dealer. It fires a stream of magic projectiles from your hand, dealing 210 damage every 0.3 seconds. Now, the thing about these projectiles is it actually passes through your enemies and applies a soul orb stack. So this is one of, I believe this is the only champion we have in the game right now that has some sort of stack ability that we'll talk about here in a second about what you can do with those stacks. But anyway, they stack up to 4 times. So every time your soul orb hits an enemy or passes through and hits an enemy behind them, that will gain a soul orb stack. Now, her right mouse button is Restore Soul. That is her healing ability. It restores the soul of an ally, healing them for 1,000 health every 2 seconds. So her health is more of a direct healing ability as opposed to something that can go in a radius like Pip. So Seris's Restore Soul will lock on to your ally that you are healing. So what's really cool about Restore Soul is that not only does it look like it has basically unlimited amount of range, but it can also go through walls. So basically, as long as you have a line of sight to your ally, you can lock onto them, heal them for 1,000, and for those 2 seconds you can move around and it will actually go through walls. Another thing to point out about Restore Soul is that it looks like the cooldown for it is only 4 seconds. So being able to heal for 1,000 health for every 2 seconds and then only have to wait for 4 seconds for your next one is just going to be insane. You're just going to be able to do an insane amount of healing, and I'm sure there's going to be cards that are going to be available to lower that cooldown even more. Now next is her Q, which is Ren's Soul, and this is where the stacks come in. You detonate all of the active soul charges, dealing 100 damage to the afflicted enemy for every charge detonated. Each charge detonated also heals you for 15% of your maximum life. So the left mouse button Q combination is going to be really popular with Seris players coming up. Hitting your soul orbs on your enemies that not only have the stacks but basically attached to your enemies, and then detonating them will not only deal 100 damage, but it'll also heal you for 50% of your maximum health. Now next is her F, which is obviously going to be her escape movement ability, which is Shadow Travel. You step into another plane of reality for 5 seconds, and while this ability is active, you are in stealth and immune from all harmful effects. So this is a combination from a lot of stealth and immune abilities that a lot of other champions in the game have. Not only are you in stealth mode, like say something like Skye, but you are completely immune to all harmful effects. And the thing that's crazy is that it lasts 5 seconds. That is plenty of time to either sneak up on an enemy, sneak up on your ally to be able to burst heal them, or completely get away if you're about to get killed. Next is her ult, which is Converge. You cast your soul core into the battlefield, and after a delay, a tear in reality will manifest and drag in nearby enemies. So basically what this looks like is throwing in a black hole into the middle of the playing field and just sucking all your enemies up at once. I believe it stuns your enemies for maybe 0.2 or 0.3 seconds. That's kind of what it looked like in the patch preview. Now, one thing you'll notice is this ultimate actually doesn't do any damage. It just pulls everyone into the same spot. So when you use this ultimate, you're going to need to make sure you have the backup damage from your teammates, because you're not going to have the backup damage yourself solely as Seris to hit your ult and then hit your left mouse button and hit your Q to try to wipe out the team. The likelihood of that happening is going to be pretty low, so you want to make sure that you have the backup from your team to help you follow up on that ultimate. Think of the ultimate as basically a reverse of Torvald's ult, where his ult blasts everybody away. Convergence is going to be pulling everyone together in the same position. As usual, I'm not really going to go into too much detail about her legendary cards and her regular cards. You're more than welcome to check out the patch notes. I'll have a link down below. You can check those out for yourself and see the details. I will add, though, that I did see this card that is called Bane, with every soul charge you detonate, it reduces the cooldown of Restore Soul, which is her healing, her right mouse button. So like I said earlier, you can have that card to use to lower the cooldown of Restore Soul. All right, moving down to the customizations. Obviously, you have all of the basic skin packs for Seris, and we have a couple of new skins coming to the game. Your first is Maldamba in this Chancellor chest. If I'm not mistaken, I think in the patch preview they said that this skin coming in the Chancellor chest is actually going to be available to everybody playing the game. It'll be available for free, so make sure you log on and grab it. Next is the Maeve Alley Cat skin, which I'm really surprised it actually took them this long to make this kind of skin. People have been wanting this for so long. Obviously, Maeve's kind of persona is that she's an alley cat kind of deal. So adding this skin just kind of goes along with the lore of her background. Now moving on to probably going to be everybody's favorite skin is going to be Bomb King's Biz King skin. Now this just comes with a head and a body. It's a pretty cool skin, I gotta say. Bomb King rocking the pinstripes everywhere. Now another customization they're adding to the game is more card art sprays. Now if you're unfamiliar with what that means, obviously sprays in the game are little images that you can spray throughout the map during a game. Now, what the card art sprays are is the art that's obviously on the back of the cards that you use for your loadouts. That art can also be used as a spray. If you unlock a chest, sometimes you can unlock a card art spray. There's really not that many for them. You can unlock it with a gold card if you get in a chest. So what they're doing here is they're adding so many more of them. And I believe I have a picture of it right here. So in this image, you can see that these are going to be all of the new card art sprays that are going to be available to use in the game. Now, moving on to maps, they've obviously added another test queue rotation. They've messed a little bit with the co-op and some of the ones that basically rotate every patch. And they fixed a lot of map bugs and improvements to some of the maps. All right, now moving on to balance updates, kind of a fair warning. One thing that you're going to see is a lot of the changes are going to be to descriptions. I've noticed that in the past maybe 2 or 3 patches that really the only change is the description of the card or the ability or something to that effect. That way everything kind of flows together and everything makes a little more sense more extensively. So for example, obviously all cards that put a limit on how much a player can be slowed now has the same phrasing with it. That way there's no confusion on precisely how it works. Moving down to kind of the first major change with Cassie, I feel like they mess with Cassie like every other patch, and she gets really good and great, and then they do something that gets really bad and makes everyone mad, and then they try to like work her back up, and then they go a little too far sometimes. So like with Scout, they increase Cassie's movement speed by 30% for the duration of Scout. I feel like this is a little bit unnecessary, especially with the changes that they've made to her a couple patches ago, but I mean, I love playing Cassie personally, so I don't really have too much of a beef with it. Also, her Drain Life card increased the healing from 75 over 3 seconds to 100 over 2 seconds. Now, first you might think, okay, this is a little bit of an overkill for Cassie being able to heal herself, but if you really think about it, she doesn't have much of a sustain option as most of her counterparts do, so this is just adding on to her to help her be more of a sustained damage dealer. Now, moving down to Bomb King. Bomb King has been a little bit OP. I don't know if I want to say OP, but he's been really strong lately. So obviously they're kind of dialing him back a little bit by reducing his health from 2,500 to 2,400, and the refire rate has been increased from 0.6 to 0.7. It's just really a quality of life thing. He's a little too strong right now for everybody's liking, probably. So they're kind of dialing him back just a little bit. Moving down to Fernando. They're actually increasing the damage of Flame Lance from 30 to 35 per hit. It may sound like a lot, but Fernando isn't really that strong as a frontliner tank right now. He's not really picked too often, so adding this to his damage kit is probably going to make him a little more sustainable and useful coming into a game. The range of Inara's Stone Spear has been increased by 25%. Inara is one of the few really strong ranged tank players, so it adds another level of her Stone Spear being able to be useful at a much longer range. Lex is already getting a little bit of a nerf. His magnums damage is reduced from 700 to 680, and they have an increased damage fall off. Lex was just introduced to the game a patch ago, which I believe was 2 weeks ago. So it's not really surprising that they are already nerfing him just a little bit. They probably felt like he was a little bit too much of an overkill, especially with his headshot damage. So that makes sense that they're just reducing the damage a little bit, especially with the damage drop off. Like I said, a lot of these changes are either bug fixes or they're just changing the phrasing for some of the cards or some of the abilities. Moving down to Skye, her time bomb is actually now thrown. If you've ever played Skye or you played against Skye, it's kind of just dropped and tossed a little bit, but now with this, it's actually thrown, and the fuse starts as soon as the bomb lands. I believe previously the bomb started as soon as she threw it, so now there's kind of a longer time field on her time bomb before it goes off. The duration of hidden has been increased by 4 seconds. Wow, okay, as if Skye wasn't already annoying. And as you can see, they've actually changed the duration of Cloak as a card, increasing the duration of Hidden, but decreasing what the base benefit was from Cloak. It kind of equals it out more. For Sha Lin, they've increased the time it takes Planted to start firing from 0.4 to 0.6 seconds. Planted is probably one of his strongest abilities, you know, using your right click to stun and then using Planted to get a couple shots off of your enemy. That's probably one of his strongest combinations in my opinion. And I guess there's too many situations where it can basically guarantee a kill, and I guess they didn't like that, so increasing it basically gives that time frame in between getting the stun with your right click and then setting down Planted, kind of giving your enemy a little bit of a scapegoat. That really does it about pretty much the most important things from this patch. The biggest takeaways I would say is obviously your new champion with Seris, the really cool skins that they've got added to the game. There's a couple of balance changes. I really don't think anything is that big of a deal. Maybe Bomb King's a little bit. Fernando has a little more damage. Inara has better range. Lex got nerfed. Cassie's changes, Skye's changes. A lot of them are just generic balance changes. I don't really think many are mind-blowing. They're just equaling out the playing field a little bit, if you will. That's going to do it for this review for the latest patch to come to Paladins, OB48. I believe it is already available on the public test server. If you haven't downloaded, definitely download it and try it out. You can try out all of these new changes before it hits the live server, probably in a couple of days. Usually they hit it on the public test server on Friday, and they try to get it out to the live servers between Monday or Wednesday. Always give your feedback to Hi-Rez about how you feel about these changes. That is what the public test server is for. That's why it is called a test server. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video, and we'll see you next time.